Hi, I'm Clint with Montana 811. I'm the program administrator for Montana 811. It's my responsibility to oversee the program. I work for a board of directors, and like all the 811 programs, we're here to take one call services and make sure that we have safe excavation. Well, we're looking at a lot of money that's coming from the federal government for underground facilities or new infrastructure. With that, we're seeing a lot of money that's being put out and thus a lot of work. And with all that additional work, we're seeing a lot more locates and a lot more locates than we're used to seeing. And having locators, and even people working the call center is a challenge with the number of locates that are coming in. We just don't have enough. So we're seeing tickets that are required by Montana law to be completed within 2 full business days, having to wait a little bit longer to get it done. Now, we have identified that part of the solution is to make sure that whenever we are receiving locate requests, that they are for actual locating work, not something that we may do at some time. We want locates on projects that are actually happening, and that frees up our locators from doing the extra ones to get out to all those jobs. And so it's going to be a challenge of maintaining the locate requests that we get from the excavators, making sure that we're not doing a bunch of duplicates that's unnecessary. We don't want people to refresh tickets just blindly month after month after month, because those locates just are costing us time and money, and it's not helping anybody out. We've actually been very lucky in Montana that we have not had any major incidents or accidents associated with excavation, and particularly from mismarked lines or just from careless excavation. We do see damages. They're more just the common damages that happen because either someone's being rushing through something or being a little careless, and those are always going to happen, those day-to-day ones. But we've been fortunate that we don't have any major incidents that we do see around other places in the U.S. The three highlights. I think the key thing, and we've seen it in the Digging Dangers video that I like to show before each one of my presentations, to get people in that mindset. And tonight I had a member from the audience saying, well, geez, that's a real downer. And, it kind of is, but yet we're trying to make it clear that things are dangerous, can be dangerous out there. And in one of the little segments, it talked about that the excavator started excavation before the locates were done. And they said, well, we didn't know if they were done. We didn't have anything. So Montana, along with a number of other states, have a ticket status or ability to be able to report back to the excavators the status of their ticket. So they can look on there, see if the locates have been completed, and if they are completed, then they can actually go out and work. But if they see that it's not located, then they need to wait and make sure that the locators have a chance to get out there and get it done. So I think those are kind of the highlights of what we try to cover. That and just understanding the marks and what they mean. I'd like the public to know that they still need to call in to get locates done, as well as our professional excavators. The key thing is that you may think you know where it's at, but chances are you probably don't know. So call in. It's a free service. There's no cost to you to get them out and have the underground utilities marked, at least the utility-owned underground line marked. There are lines that homeowners have that we consider private lines that do not get located through calling 811. And so you're going to either have to hire a private locator to locate them, but it's always a good idea at least get things marked that you can. I'd like them to review their laws and make sure that they do have the capability in the law to. The term we hear often in our industry is the bad actors, or the ones that don't care about the safety policies or care about what they're doing. They just like to go and get their work done and don't care about the damages or that they may cause. And so I'd like to see policymakers and or legislatures look at it and make sure that there's enough teeth in the law that we can kind of be punitive with them to drive home the importance of, like, calling before you dig, following the guidelines. Sometimes you have to make it painful enough for them to learn that lesson. So I'd say make sure you look at the law, make sure it's easy to understand, and make sure it has some teeth in it. Well, occasionally we see utility companies that will charge for damage to an underground line, and that is proper if the line has been correctly marked out and identified by the utility company. But occasionally we have utility companies that do not mark their lines for one reason or another, and sometimes they will try to charge for a repair on those lines. And so I do know some contacts, so if that turns out to be a situation, I can usually help those excavators out and at least say that you don't have to pay this because it wasn't marked properly. One thing that I do like that I think that most people don't understand, and there are three other states that are bigger than Montana. Alaska is more rural than Montana, but when you're looking at California and you're looking at Texas, they got a lot of people. Montana, we're the fifth largest state, but we're just barely over 1 million people in the state. So we have a lot of rural area, and trying to identify excavation in a rural area is a real challenge. And so we always have to work on that. And also when we're covering distances, you look at from one end of the state, from Montana, from the eastern border over by North Dakota, and you go west to the furthest point west to go over by Idaho, you're looking at over about 600 miles. If you were to overlay 600 miles in other parts, say like the Northeast, you could go from all the way from New York City down to Washington, D.C. In the same distance that you would be driving in Montana. So it kind of helps put the size and the ruralness into something maybe someone else would understand. Abandoned lines is becoming more common and left in the ground. And currently, there's some states I think have addressed it of saying that they have to locate those abandoned lines. But a lot of times, these abandoned lines are companies that went out of business, so there may not even be maps available for them anymore. And so that those lines are still in the ground, and we have excavators that come across it and like, oh my gosh, there's something here, but there was no locates or nobody that said we have utilities there, and they would get pretty confused. So abandoned lines are a real issue, and they stay in the ground. So as we put more infrastructure in the ground, the more that's going to happen, and the more we're probably going to have to figure out some way to deal with it.